Okay, so in my last video, the one about the Argent Vive, aka the philosophical mercury, um, I showed that in this container here, this one below right here, I showed that it contained the oil, and that oil is basically like our quintessence, and it comes from the top of the water of urine. Now, I already explained this in the previous video, but what I'm going to do here is attempt to distill it through this system that I have kind of rigged together using a couple boards and strings. And now, let's see, this glass piece has a knob that I can shut off the flow between the chambers. If I twist it to the right, it'll close it off. But right now it's open so that the vapors have nowhere to go but through the hole that's running through it. And they'll have to come up here at some point. When they come up here, this vessel is actually connected to another vessel. This is a long glass tube, and inside of this glass tube is water, cool water. And that's so that way the internal tube, there's a tube inside of this tube. That's so that the gases, when they reach the top of this chamber, because they're hotter, they're going to move to where it's colder, and naturally they'll flow down through that chamber, and they should deposit down through this glass system and into this container. Now, this container is filled with our prima materia that is still going through the nigredo or blackening stage. Now, this particular batch has been fermenting with silver for about almost I want to say a month, or maybe a month and a week, maybe less than a month. I don't remember how long it's been since I first started. I should have kept track of the date, but it is still blackening, and it's almost as black as it's going to get in there. However, I expect that if I can distill this Argent Vive, which is basically the feminine part of our prima materia, it is the mercury to our sulfur and salt, which our sulfur and salt are already here, and this has Argent Vive in it too. But I'm aiming for like greatly increasing the amount of this Argent Vive that my matter has, in hopes that it will not only accelerate the process of the albedo whitening stage and the rubedo or reddening stage. I'm hoping that it accelerates the rate at which the stone will mature and develop into its most potent state, its most energized state. Now, the more that you can get its spirit, or its quicksilver, or, I mean to say its philosophical mercury, the more you distill that up and down, above and below with the substance, so that its spirit rises above as if to go to heaven and return to earth below. The more times you do that, every time you do it, energy is building up in the mass, in the body of the stone, because the kinetic forces of the up and down motion, the heat driving the gases up, and then they precipitate and drop back down. That kinetic energy and the thermal energy interacts with the molecules in the earth of it below, and not only interacts with it, but joins with it. And so like gradually you're adding energy to the system and giving it, the stone, more and more potency of chemical energy, like biochemical energy. Now there's something about, as far as like how the Philosopher's Stone works, all I can say is that there's something about organic, about chemical compounds that come out of organic systems. They seem to possess a strange type of energy that can only be associated with life, which the Book of Aquarius calls life energy, because it's the simplest way to explain it. Which basically is just saying that this life energy that is trapped in the water of the urine after a man urinates, the life energy from his body, some of it is attached to the water, and this very different kind of energy is able to be refined and concentrated into the matter of the stone. And when that stone is subjected to molten metal and penetrates the metal, once it sinks in beneath the surface of a molten metal, it releases a sudden burst of that energy, but not too abruptly, not too late either. It just releases the approximate amount of energy that will interact with the metallic atoms and tell those atoms to lose a grip off of their forces that are holding together their atomic weight and their mass and spin. It just alters the atoms, or transmutes them all together, because some strange interaction between life energy and the metal. But yeah, once you actually have the stone, it's virtually indestructible, except for that it can be consumed by hydrochloric acid, and it can also be consumed by molten metals, and in that way it is destroyed. But the stone is virtually just as solid, and its chemical composition hard to break, just like any other stone. And so it literally doesn't want to release its energy very easily. So it takes extreme heat and pressure, and it takes a long time to actually let the Philosopher's Stone work its magic upon the metal, because the metal is not going to want to transmute without a fight. And so the metal is stubborn and dense, and it's going to try to refuse to transmute. And the energy of the stone is not going to try to release itself so easily. But when it is consumed by the metal, and when it is released of its energy by means of the intense heat, that energy is able to cause some kind of strange effect upon the metallic atoms that enables them to transmute altogether. Now, we don't necessarily understand or know exactly what's happening to the atoms altogether at the small scale. But anyways, this is my latest experiment, guys. I'll talk more later.